The desert world turned beneath a furious sky. Thunder cracked without pause and lightning poured like rivers of fire. To most travelers, this planet was cursed. Traders spoke of ships lost to the storms, their wrecks buried beneath waves of sand. Others whispered of a tomb built in the center of the storm belt, a golden place sealed by power no one could break. Alien fleets had searched for it and mercenaries had bled for it, but none returned with proof. To them, the tomb was a myth. To Captain Rian, it was a challenge worth facing. Rian stood on the bridge of his ship, the Star Chaser, watching bolts of lightning dance across the wide screen. His eyes were steady, not drawn by greed but by curiosity. He had heard the story many times of a ruler known only as the Pharaoh, who held dominion over storms. The Pharaoh's treasure, they said, was not just gold but knowledge, something beyond measure. Ryan believed that humans, with their stubborn courage, could achieve what others could not. Beside him stood Mira, the crew's linguist. Her dark eyes traced symbols glowing faintly on her tablet. She had gathered fragments from traders and forgotten ruins. Some of the symbols, she explained, matched old human marks, like those once carved on stone in Earth's early ages. The link was impossible to explain, yet it was there. Mira believed the Pharaoh's tomb had waited for humanity. Raoul, the youngest crew member, shifted with restless energy. He was the navigator, sharp with numbers and quicker with dreams. He had begged Rian to join this mission, convinced that the tomb held secrets meant for them. His excitement clashed with the steady hum of the bridge, but even his enthusiasm dimmed as the ship shuddered under the storm's force. Outside, dunes stretched like an endless sea, whipped by winds that howled as if alive. Lightning struck again and again, lighting the sky brighter than day. The Star Chaser groaned but pushed forward, shield layers glowing under each strike. Ryan's crew trusted the ship's strength, but still, fear pressed close. No one had ever come so deep into the storm belt. "Captain, readings are unstable," Raoul said, his hands moving across the console. "Magnetic pull is shifting, sensors are confused. It feels like the storm itself is pulling us." "Hold steady," Ryan answered calmly. His voice carried weight, anchoring the crew's nerves. "We knew this would not be simple. Trust the ship, trust each other." Mira leaned closer to the screen, where flickers of golden light appeared between sand clouds. "There," she whispered. "I see something. Structure ahead." The crew fell silent as the image grew clearer. Through curtains of lightning, a shape emerged. Tall spires rose from the desert, glowing faintly as if the storm itself powered them. Walls of gold shone between strikes, half buried in sand but untouched by ruin. The structure seemed eternal, older than any known empire. It was the Pharaoh's tomb. Raoul grinned with disbelief. "It's real. It's really here." Ryan allowed a small smile but kept his focus. "Prepare for descent. Shields to full. We land near the outer wall." The Star Chaser cut through roaring winds and sank toward the golden shape. Sand blasted against the hull and lightning wrapped around the shields in blinding arcs. Every second felt like the planet was trying to tear them apart. Yet the tomb grew closer, rising from the earth like a crown of storms. When they landed, the ground shook as if the planet disapproved. The ramp lowered, and dry air rushed in, hot and heavy with electricity. Ryan stepped onto the sand first, boots sinking into the shifting ground. The storm screamed above, but his gaze stayed fixed on the golden wall before him. Mira followed, clutching her tablet against her chest. She ran her hand along the sand-worn carvings, tracing lines that pulsed faintly with hidden energy. Her voice trembled with awe. "These marks, they speak of a ruler who walked with thunder. They call him Pharaoh of Eternal Storm." Raoul joined them, eyes wide as he tilted his head back to see the massive spire reaching into the sky. "It looks alive, like the storm is feeding it." Lightning struck the highest spire and the golden wall glowed brighter for a moment. The crew stared, breath caught, as the light seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. The tomb was not only a building, it was a living monument sustained by the endless thunder. Ryan's jaw tightened. This is no simple resting place. The Pharaoh wanted this to endure forever. Behind them, the Star Chaser hummed, its engines holding against the storm. Before them stood a doorway taller than 10 men, sealed with arcs of white energy. The crew understood now why no other species had entered. The gate rejected machines, weapons, and force. It guarded its secrets with the fury of the storm. Yet Mira pressed her hand to the carvings and felt a rhythm that answered her touch. Not machine, not alien, but something that felt human. She looked to Ryan with certainty. "This tomb has waited, and it has waited for us." The storm roared louder as if hearing her words. The crew stood together, humans small against the golden wall yet unafraid. The Pharaoh's tomb had revealed itself, and their journey had truly begun. The storm above the desert did not rest. Thunder rolled like a living drum, and lightning rained in sharp rivers across the sky. Yet before Captain Ryan and his crew stood the golden walls of the Pharaoh's tomb. The spires stretched high, glowing faintly each time lightning struck them. The structure seemed both ancient and alive, a monument built not to fade but to endure. Ryan studied the massive doorway that stood in front of them. It rose like a mountain wall, sealed with bright arcs of energy. Each bolt hissed and cracked, warning any who dared to step closer. The surface was covered in markings, symbols that twisted like rivers across the golden stone. Though strange in shape, they carried a rhythm that pulled at the crew's thoughts almost like a silent voice. Mira pressed closer, her hand brushing against the warm surface of the carvings. She read them aloud softly, though she knew no complete translation. Path of Storm, Keeper of Thunder, Pharaoh Eternal. Her voice trembled with both awe and fear. Ral, unable to keep still, stepped to the side and looked at the broken machines that lay half buried in the sand. They were rusted frames of ships and armor, once belonging to alien explorers who had tried to enter the tomb. Their remains were blackened as though burned by lightning itself. Others tried, Ral said, his voice shaking. The tomb destroyed them. Ryan remained steady. He walked closer to the sealed gate, stopping only a few steps away. The arcs of energy hissed louder as if sensing his presence. This is not only a trap, he said quietly. It is a test. Mira turned toward him. What kind of test? The kind that does not answer to force, Ryan replied. Every weapon, every tool left here was destroyed. The Pharaoh wanted something else to open this door. Ral frowned. But what? Machines cannot survive. If it is not technology, then what remains? The answer seemed to wait in silence. Lightning cracked above, striking the spire and sending golden light through the carvings. The lines pulsed like veins. Mira stepped closer again, heart racing. She placed her hand against the wall, and for an instant the energy shifted. The arcs grew calmer, almost softer, then flared back to full power. Mira gasped and pulled her hand back. It responded, she whispered. Not to the tablet, not to the ship, but to me. To life, Ral's eyes widened. You mean it only opens for living touch? For humans? Mira shook her head. Not just touch. It felt like it was searching, like it wanted to know me. Ryan looked at the door with new certainty. Then this tomb was never meant for those who came with greed. It was waiting for us. The crew grew silent at his words. For centuries, the legend of the Pharaoh's treasure had lured countless species, but perhaps only humans had the key. Perhaps this was why the storm had remained unbroken, guarding the tomb until the right time came. Ryan raised his hand and stepped forward. The energy hissed wildly, arcs stretching toward him like claws. The crew held their breath. For a moment it seemed the captain would be struck down. But as his palm pressed firmly against the glowing carvings, the lightning arcs dimmed. The storm above roared louder, and the ground shook as though the world itself had felt his touch. Light spread across the wall, racing along the golden lines. Symbols flared with power, their shapes twisting into patterns that even Mira could almost read. They spoke of passage, of trials, of a path leading deeper than any storm. The sealed door split down the center with a heavy sound. Sand rushed from the cracks and the energy dissolved into the air. Slowly the gate began to part, revealing a dark passage beyond. The air that escaped was hot and heavy, filled with the scent of metal and stone long hidden. Ral's excitement spilled out in a rush. It opened. You did it, Captain. We are the first to enter. Ryan stepped back, his face steady. We are not conquerors. We are guests. Remember that. This place was not built for us to take, but for us to prove ourselves. Mira nodded in agreement. She held her tablet tighter, already scanning the glowing lines for meaning. The carvings speak of chambers. They call them paths of thunder. Each one is a step toward the heart of the tomb. It will not be easy. The crew gathered their equipment and moved carefully into the passage. The golden walls seemed to breathe with light, guiding them forward. The storm outside continued to roar, but within the tomb, silence pressed close. The only sound was the echo of their footsteps on the smooth stone floor. Ral ran his hand along the wall as they walked. It feels alive. Like the tomb itself is watching us, Mira answered quietly. Maybe it is. The passage opened into a vast chamber. Golden pillars rose like trees, their tops lost in the shadows above. Lightning flashed through cracks in the ceiling, feeding the pillars with streams of energy. The air hummed with power, and the crew felt their skin prickle. At the center of the chamber lay a wide floor covered in strange patterns. The symbols glowed faintly, shifting as though they were alive. Mira knelt and studied them, her eyes widening. This is no map. It is a test. The floor reacts to our steps. We must cross in the right order or the storm will strike. Ral groaned but smiled at the same time. A puzzle. I knew it would not be simple. Ryan looked across the chamber to the far side where another great doorway stood, sealed but waiting. He spoke with calm strength. Then let us begin, step by step together. The crew gathered close, the weight of the tomb pressing around them. They had entered where no other had, but the journey had only begun. Before them lay the first trial of the Pharaoh's storm tomb, a challenge meant not to destroy but to judge. The golden chamber hummed as if it carried the heartbeat of the storm above. Lightning flashed through cracks in the ceiling, and each strike lit the carvings on the walls. The crew of the Star Chaser stood at the edge of the glowing floor, staring at the shifting symbols. The patterns moved like flowing water, sliding and twisting into new shapes. Mira studied them closely, kneeling to trace the nearest lines with her fingers. "It is alive," she whispered. "The path changes with each moment. The wrong step will wake the storm." Ral tilted his head, squinting at the glowing shapes. "So how do we know the right steps?" "There are thousands of patterns here. One mistake and we are gone." Ryan stood silent for a moment. His gaze swept across the chamber, calm and firm. He was not the kind of leader who solved puzzles with numbers or symbols. His strength was in people, in patience, and in trust. He turned to Mira. "What do you see in the patterns?" Mira's voice was thoughtful. "They remind me of old human markings. Symbols of balance. Some represent unity, others represent division. The safe path might not be about speed or cleverness. It might be about choosing together." Rion nodded. "Then we walk as one. No running, no guessing. We move carefully, step by step." The crew formed a line, with Ryan leading and Mira guiding. Ral followed close, his nerves buzzing as strongly as the floor. As Ryan stepped onto the first glowing symbol, the lines rippled outward like water. For a tense second, the chamber held its breath. Then the floor calmed, glowing brighter under his boot. Mira stepped next, her foot landing on the same symbol. Again the light accepted her. Ral, though anxious, followed quickly. The chamber stayed calm. Relief passed through them, but only for a moment. As Ryan placed his foot forward to the next mark, the floor shifted. Symbols rearranged themselves in sudden waves. Ral gasped. "It changes each time." "It is not fixed." Mira's eyes sharpened. "It is testing our rhythm. We must move in harmony." Together they stepped again, each one matching the other's pace. When Ryan paused, so did Mira and Ral. The glowing floor shifted with each breath, but slowly a pattern revealed itself. The symbols formed into a straight line, guiding them toward the far doorway. Ral grinned with excitement. "It is working. It wants us to move together." Halfway across, the chamber thundered. Lightning struck the pillars and the floor blazed with sudden light. A section ahead turned dark, blocking their path. The tomb was shifting the rules. Mira froze, staring at the symbols. "It is testing unity, but also patience. We cannot rush forward. We must wait until it allows us." The crew stood still. Minutes passed as the floor rearranged itself. Slowly, the dark section glowed again, offering a safe path. Ryan raised his hand, signaling them forward. Step by step they continued, always moving as one. At last they reached the far side of the chamber. The second great doorway stood tall, larger than the first. Its surface pulsed with white arcs of energy, brighter than the storm outside. It was the Eternal Gate. Ral stared up at it in awe. That thing could power a whole city. Look at the energy. No wonder no one passed this point. Mira touched the carvings at the base of the gate. Unlike the first doorway, these symbols glowed without fading, as if they were waiting for something greater. She read the words aloud. "Only those who walk in thunder without fear may pass." Ryan stepped closer, feeling the hum of power vibrating in the air. The gate seemed alive, aware of them, weighing their worth. His hand hovered above the glowing surface. He remembered the first gate opening at his touch, but this one felt heavier, almost reluctant. The arcs of energy leapt outward, striking the ground near his feet. Ral jumped back, eyes wide. It does not want us here. We are not ready. Mira shook her head. No, it is not rejection. It is challenge. The first gate answered to life, but this one demands more. It asks for spirit. Ryan lowered his hand, then looked at his crew. This is not something I can do alone. It needs us all. Mira and Raoul nodded without hesitation. Together they placed their hands on the golden surface beside Ryan's. For a moment nothing happened. The energy roared louder, arcs slashing through the air. The storm above pounded like 1,000 drums. It felt as if the gate would tear them apart, but then the arcs bent inward, drawn toward their joined hands. The light flared so bright that the chamber shook. The carvings blazed, symbols shifting into shapes Mira almost recognized: unity, courage, and trust. With a sound like rolling thunder, the eternal gate began to open. The ground shook as massive slabs of golden stone slid apart. Beyond the gate stretched a long passage bathed in strange golden light. The walls glowed as though carrying rivers of power, flowing deeper into the heart of the tomb. Raoul's eyes sparkled with wonder. We did it. No one else came this far. We are the first. Ryan placed a steady hand on his shoulder. Remember, being first is not victory. Passing the test is what matters. Mira's gaze lingered on the glowing passage. She could feel the storm's energy pulling them forward, as if the tomb itself wanted them to continue. This is only the beginning. The Pharaoh built this place not to be broken, but to choose, and it has not chosen yet. The crew stepped through the eternal gate, their shadows stretching long against the golden walls. Behind them, the great doorway sealed shut, leaving only silence. Ahead lay the deeper chambers of the Pharaoh's storm tomb, and with them trials no human had ever faced. The eternal gate closed behind the crew with a sound like rolling thunder. Its golden slab sealed tight, leaving no path back. Ahead stretched a long passage, glowing softly as if lit from within. The walls carried veins of light that pulsed with steady rhythm, like blood through living stone. Each pulse matched the storm above, reminding them that the tomb and the sky were bound as one. Ryan walked first, his steps firm but careful. Mira and Raoul followed close, their eyes wide with wonder. The air grew warmer the deeper they went, filled with the hum of hidden power. It was not the hum of machines, but something older, something that felt alive. Raoul whispered as they walked. This place is not just stone. It feels like a heart still beating. Mira nodded slowly. The Pharaoh built more than a tomb. He built a trial that watches us, weighs us, and waits for us to prove ourselves. The passage opened into a vast hall that glittered like sunlight on water. Golden tiles stretched across the floor and tall pillars lined the walls. Each tile shone with faint glow, but some were bright while others were dim. Strange symbols covered the tiles, twisting into unfamiliar shapes. The air buzzed with quiet tension, as though the hall itself was alive and listening. At the far end stood another door, smaller than the eternal gate but just as sealed. Above it was a carving of the Pharaoh, arms raised toward the storm. Around the carving were words Mira struggled to read. The path of gold rewards those who walk together but punishes those who wander apart. Raoul frowned. So it is another test. What does it mean by wandering apart? Ryan studied the hall. It means the floor is not safe unless we move as one. If we separate, it will judge us as greedy and it will strike. Raoul sighed but gave a crooked smile. Then we better stay close. I have no wish to be fried by golden tiles. They stepped forward together. As Ryan's boot touched the first glowing tile, the hall trembled slightly and the golden light grew stronger. Mira followed, then Raoul. The tiles beneath them stayed bright, but tiles to the side flared suddenly and cracked with sparks. It was clear now. The path demanded unity. The crew walked carefully, choosing each step as one. At first the path was simple, straight across the hall. But halfway through the tiles shifted. Symbols moved like waves, and the safe path broke into two directions. One led left, one right. Both glowed with equal strength. Raoul hesitated. Two paths. Which one do we choose? Mira studied the symbols. Her voice was unsure. Both speak of reward, but one carries the mark of risk. I cannot tell which. Ryan closed his eyes for a moment, steadying his thoughts. He opened them and looked at his crew. The tomb does not want us to split. It wants us to decide together. We choose one and we stand by it. They chose the left path, stepping forward in unison. The tiles beneath them glowed warmly, welcoming them. But the right path cracked and fell dark, sparks leaping across the hall. Raoul let out a breath he had been holding. If we had split, we would have been lost. The test grew harder as they moved forward. The floor shifted again and again, forming choices that tempted them with glowing treasures placed on the sides. Golden cups, jewels, and shining blades appeared on tiles just beyond the safe path. They glimmered like promises of wealth beyond dreams. Ral's eyes lingered on the treasures. So much gold. Enough to buy a whole fleet. Mira shook her head quickly. It is not real. The tomb is testing us. Those who step aside for greed will be struck. Ryan's voice was calm but firm. Look only ahead. Leave the false gold behind. Together they moved forward, never breaking their line. Each time they ignored the treasures, the safe path grew brighter. It was clear that the tomb did not reward desire but restraint. At last they reached the far end of the hall. The final door glowed with golden light, waiting for them. But before they could reach it, the floor shifted one last time. A deep rumble echoed through the hall, and the tiles behind them fell away into dark pit. The tomb was sealing their way back, forcing them to move forward. Ral's voice was tense. No turning back now. Mira looked at the carving of the Pharaoh above the door. The words around it now glowed with full brightness. She read them clearly. Gold is not the reward. The reward is the path walked without greed. Ryan stepped forward and placed his hand on the door. The golden surface pulsed with light as if recognizing their unity. Slowly the door opened, revealing a narrow stairway descending deeper into the earth. Warm air rushed out, carrying the scent of stone and power long hidden. The crew stood together at the top of the stairs. Behind them, the Hall of Gold lay silent, treasures still glittering but untouched. Ahead, shadows waited in the depths. Ryan looked at his crew, his voice steady. We passed this trial because we chose together. The next will be harder. Stay strong. Mira nodded, her eyes sharp with determination. Ral tried to smile, though his hands trembled slightly. Still, he stepped forward with them, unwilling to be left behind. Together they began to descend, the golden light fading as darkness rose to greet them. The Pharaoh's tomb had not finished its judgment. The golden path was only one step on a journey that reached far deeper, into chambers where storm and shadow would test not only unity, but courage itself. The stairway seemed endless as the crew of the Star Chaser descended deeper into the tomb. The golden glow of the upper chambers faded behind them, replaced by a heavy darkness broken only by faint lines of light in the stone. Each step carried them farther from the storm above, yet they could still hear its echo rumbling through the walls. It was as if the storm was following them, waiting for what lay ahead. At last, the stairway opened into a cavernous hall. The air was hot and thick, charged with raw energy that made their skin prickle. The walls glowed faintly with golden veins, and the ceiling arched so high that it disappeared into shadow. At the center of the hall stood a massive statue carved from storm-dark stone. Its eyes were empty hollows, yet sparks of lightning flickered within them. Mira stepped forward slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. This is the Guardian. Ral tilted his head back, staring up at the towering figure. It was shaped like a warrior, its arms raised as if calling thunder from the sky. The ground around its base was cracked and scorched, blackened as though countless storms had been unleashed here. It looks like it could crush us without even moving, Ral muttered. Ryan studied the statue carefully. His instincts told him this was no ordinary carving. It was waiting. He turned to his crew. Stay close. Do not provoke it. The Pharaoh's trials have tested unity and restraint. This one will test something deeper. As if in answer, the ground trembled. Lightning flashed across the hall, striking the statue. The hollow eyes lit with blinding white fire, and the figure began to move. Stone cracked and shifted as the Guardian came alive. Its body was not flesh but storm, a living construct of thunder and stone. Ral stumbled back, his heart pounding. It is alive. What do we do? The Guardian raised its arm, and a wave of energy surged across the hall. The crew fell to their knees as visions filled their minds. They saw images of fear, each one tailored to their hearts. Ral saw the Star Chaser torn apart in the storm, his friends vanishing into the sand while he stood helpless. Mira saw herself alone in endless darkness, her words and knowledge meaningless, forgotten by all. Ryan saw his crew broken, trust shattered, each one blaming him for failure. The visions pressed hard, each more real than the last. The Guardian's voice rumbled through the hall, though it spoke without words. The test was clear. It was not strength or skill that mattered here. It was courage. Ral clutched his head, his voice shaking. It is too strong. I cannot fight it. Mira reached for his hand, her own eyes filled with tears but steady with resolve. It wants us to break. But fear is only shadow. If we stand together, it cannot win. Rayan planted his feet firmly on the scorched ground. He spoke with calm strength, his voice cutting through the storm. This is the Pharaoh's judgment. He does not want warriors who strike with blades. He wants hearts that do not fall in fear. Look at me, both of you. We stand as one. The visions pressed harder, but the crew held their ground. Ral's breathing slowed as he gripped Mira's hand tighter. Mira raised her head, her voice firm now. We are not alone. We walk together. Rayan lifted his gaze to the Guardian. The white fire in its eyes blazed brighter, but he did not flinch. You will not break us. We are human. We face storms and we endure. The hall shook as lightning cracked from the ceiling. The Guardian's roar echoed like thunder rolling across 1,000 skies. But slowly the visions began to fade. The fear that had clawed at their minds lost its grip. The Guardian lowered its arms, the white fire dimming. It stepped back, its massive form dissolving into sparks of light. The storm energy sank into the floor, flowing toward the far wall. There a hidden doorway revealed itself, glowing with golden radiance. The trial had ended. Ral collapsed to his knees, breathing hard but alive. He looked up at Rayan with a weak smile. I thought it would destroy us. But you were right. Fear was the weapon, not thunder. Mira wiped her face, her eyes shining with both exhaustion and triumph. The Pharaoh wanted to see if we could face what lies inside us. Many could not. That is why they failed. Rayan placed a hand on each of their shoulders. His voice was steady, filled with quiet pride. You both stood firm. That is what matters. The Guardian has judged us worthy to go further. The crew gathered their strength and walked toward the glowing doorway. Behind them the hall fell silent once more. The Guardian nothing more than stone again, yet they knew it would always remain, watching for the next who dared to face it. As they stepped through the doorway, the air grew lighter, though the storm still rumbled faintly through the stone. The tomb was not finished with them. Deeper chambers waited, holding secrets hidden for ages. But for the first time since entering, the crew felt a spark of hope. They had faced fear itself and had not broken. Rayan glanced back once, his eyes lingering on the hall where the Guardian had stood. Then he turned forward. The Pharaoh has tested our unity, our restraint, and now our courage. The next trial will demand even more. We must be ready. Together they moved into the next chamber, their shadows stretching long against the glowing walls. The storm whispered above, but their hearts were steady. The path ahead was dark, but they no longer feared the darkness. The doorway beyond the Guardian's hall opened into a chamber unlike any the crew had seen before. The air was heavy but calm, filled with golden light that seemed to float rather than shine. The walls curved into a vast dome, and every inch of the stone was carved with symbols that glowed faintly, forming rivers of meaning that Mira's eyes followed hungrily. At the center of the dome stood a sarcophagus carved from pure gold, its surface bright with ancient power. The crew stopped at the threshold, their steps quiet. For a moment, none of them spoke. The silence was deep, broken only by the soft hum of energy flowing through the chamber. Ral whispered, his voice small. This is it. The Pharaoh's resting place. Mira's heart pounded as she studied the carvings. Unlike the earlier chambers, these symbols were clearer. They spoke not in puzzles, but in messages. She traced them slowly, reading aloud. The Pharaoh of Eternal Storm did not build this for death. He built it for memory. His spirit waits for those who endure. Rayan's gaze fixed on the sarcophagus. He stepped forward carefully, his voice calm but firm. Then this is no treasure room. This is the heart of the tomb. As he approached, the golden surface of the sarcophagus began to glow brighter. The carvings on the walls pulsed in rhythm. Like the chamber itself was waking, a low hum filled the air, rising into a voice that was not heard with ears but felt deep in their minds. You who walk in thunder have come far. Ral froze, his eyes wide. Did you hear that? It spoke. Mira's voice trembled with awe. It is not alive, but neither is it gone. This is the Pharaoh's memory. He left his spirit to speak with those who reach this place. The golden sarcophagus shimmered and an image formed above it. A tall figure cloaked in light appeared, its shape unclear but noble. Its eyes glowed with stormfire, yet its presence was calm, almost kind. I am the Pharaoh, the voice said. Long ago my people held power over storm and sky. We built wonders, but our greed and pride brought ruin. In the end I chose to hide our knowledge, sealing it behind trials no thief could endure. I waited for a species that could walk the storm not with hunger but with heart. The crew listened in silence. every word pressing deep into them. Ryan raised his head, speaking with steady respect. "Why us? Why humans?" The Pharaoh's image turned toward him. "I saw your kind through the storms of time. Weak in body, yet strong in will. You endure hunger, fear, and darkness, yet you rise again. You fight not only with strength, but with spirit. My people lost that spirit, and so they fell. You may yet carry it forward." Mira stepped closer, her eyes filled with wonder. The trials were not about treasure. They were about proving ourselves. The Pharaoh's light nodded. "Gold was never the gift. It is only shadow. The true gift is knowledge, the power to guide storms, to command energy that flows through worlds. With it you can bring light to darkness or destruction to all. That choice is yours." Ral's voice wavered. "Others tried for centuries. Why give it to us now?" The voice of the Pharaoh grew softer. "Because you did not walk alone. Many came seeking gold and they perished. You chose unity, restraint, and courage. That is why you stand here. That is why the tomb opens for you." The golden chamber pulsed brighter. From the sarcophagus rose a crystal sphere glowing with pure stormlight. It floated gently toward Ryan, humming with immense energy. The crew stepped back, awed by its brilliance. Ryan caught it carefully, feeling the energy rush through him like a tide. Yet instead of burning, it filled him with warmth, as if the storm itself had accepted him. "This is the core of eternal thunder," the Pharaoh's voice said. "It can power your ships, your cities, even your world. But it can also burn them to ash if used with greed. Guard it well, for it is not only my gift, it is my final trust." Mira's eyes shone with tears. "We will not waste it. We will honor your trust." The Pharaoh's image grew dimmer, its voice fading into the hum of the chamber. "Then go, bearers of storm. My time is ended, but yours begins. Carry light where darkness waits. Carry unity where division grows. The tomb will close, but the storm will always remember you." With those final words, the image dissolved into sparks of golden light. The chamber fell quiet once more. The sarcophagus dimmed, now only stone and gold, no longer alive with memory. Ral let out a long breath, almost a laugh. "We just spoke with a pharaoh. Not gold, not jewels, but something greater. I still cannot believe it." Ryan placed the glowing sphere safely into a container, his face calm but proud. "Believe it. This was the truth hidden for ages, and now it is ours to protect." Mira looked around the chamber one last time, her heart heavy but full. He waited for us, for humanity, and we did not fail him. The crew turned toward the stairway that led upward, carrying the core of eternal thunder. The storm still roared above, but now its voice felt different. It was no longer only a threat. It was a song of respect, echoing for those who had proven worthy. The golden chamber of the Pharaoh grew quiet as the image of the ancient ruler faded into sparks of light. Ryan, Mira, and Ral stood in silence, the core of eternal thunder glowing gently in its container. Its light was steady and warm, unlike the wild storm outside. It was a living promise waiting to be carried into the future. Ryan's hands closed firmly around the container. His voice was calm, filled with both respect and weight. "We came seeking answers. We leave with a gift greater than any treasure. Now it is our duty to use it wisely." Mira nodded, her eyes still tracing the glowing lines of the chamber walls. "The Pharaoh trusted us. If we fail, his gift will become a curse. We must guard it, not only from others, but from ourselves." Ral's excitement shone in his face, though fear lingered beneath. Imagine what this could mean for Earth. No more empty cities in darkness. No more ships drifting powerless. This core could change everything. Their words echoed softly in the golden dome, but the time to linger had passed. The chamber pulsed one last time, and then the light of the walls began to fade. The tomb had given its gift, and now it would rest again. Ryan gestured toward the stairway. "We go back. The storm will not wait for us forever." The crew climbed upward, their footsteps echoing against stone. The trials they had faced, the golden path, the guardian, the eternal gate, lay behind them, silent now. Yet as they moved, they felt the tomb watching, its presence no longer testing but blessing. When they reached the surface, the storm roared louder than ever. Lightning ripped across the sky, and thunder rolled like a sea of drums. The spires of the tomb glowed brilliantly, brighter than when they had first arrived. It was as if the planet itself knew what had happened below. Ral shielded his eyes from the dazzling light. "The storm is different. It feels alive." Mira nodded slowly. "The Pharaoh's spirit is bidding us farewell." Their ship, the Star Chaser, waited against the dunes, its hull still holding against the furious winds. As they stepped aboard, the ground shook violently. A wave of lightning struck the tomb's highest spire, and golden light surged through the storm clouds. For a moment, the entire desert glowed as if it had turned to fire. Ryan guided them into the ship. "Engines ready. We rise with the storm." The Star Chaser lifted from the sand, its shield sparking under the assault of thunder and wind. The storm lashed at them, but this time the core's presence seemed to shield them. The energy within it pulsed in rhythm with the lightning, and the fury outside bent aside as if recognizing its heir. Ral's eyes widened as he read the instruments. "Captain, the storm is parting. It is letting us through." Indeed, the clouds split above, forming a golden corridor of light. For centuries, the storms had destroyed any who came near, but now they opened, clearing a path into the stars. The crew sat in silent awe as the ship climbed higher and higher. When they broke free into the calm of space, the storm belt still raged below, but it no longer felt hostile. Instead, it looked like a crown of fire and light, guarding the planet for all time. Mira's voice was soft. "The tomb closes, but the storm remembers." Ral leaned back in his seat, finally allowing himself a grin. "We did it. We faced every trial and we came out alive. More than alive, we carry the greatest gift in the galaxy." Rian's eyes stayed on the glowing core. He spoke with quiet strength. "It is not victory that matters, Ral. It is what we do next. This core can bring light to millions, or destruction to millions more. The Pharaoh trusted us to choose." For a long moment, the bridge was silent, each of them lost in thought. The weight of their journey pressed heavy, yet so did the hope of what lay ahead. Humanity had been chosen where countless others had failed. As the Star Chaser set course for Earth's frontier station, the storm planet faded behind them. Its golden tomb gleamed once in the distance, then disappeared into the endless dark. Mira closed her tablet, her heart still full of the Pharaoh's words. "He believed in us. Now the galaxy will see what humans can become." Ral leaned forward, excitement returning to his voice. "When Earth hears of this, everything will change. No more being the weaker race among the stars. We will finally be seen." Ryan placed a steady hand on his shoulder. "Not seen for power, but for trust. That is what the Pharaoh tested. And that is what we must keep." The core glowed warmly, its light spilling across the bridge. It was not the light of greed or conquest, but of hope. Outside the viewport, stars stretched endlessly, each one a promise of new journeys waiting to be written. For now, though, the crew of the Star Chaser sat together in silence, letting the storm planet fall away behind them. They had faced unity, restraint, courage, and fear. They had spoken with a ruler long turned to memory. They carried a gift hidden for ages, a gift entrusted to them alone. The storm had chosen. Humanity had answered, and somewhere in the eternal thunder the Pharaoh's spirit smiled.